Hello and welcome to your introduction to Veganuary, eating vegan. And yes, it's that time of year again where we've had our New Year and Christmas indulgences and we've eaten poorly and maybe we've put on some weight and it's time to, if you want to, get healthy. And yes, eating a plant-based vegan diet is the most healthiest way to eat. And I'm going to show you actually two ways you can eat vegan in this video. And because I want to cover the three bases of what veganism is. So firstly, just to, understand, maybe you've heard of veganism. The three pillars of why people become vegan is firstly for health. So plant-based eating, vegan eating is the healthiest way to eat. Secondly, the health of the animal, so you don't want to cause animal suffering, and the easiest way to do that is not paying for animals to be slaughtered, to be stabbed and killed. And the third thing is animal agriculture is incredibly damaging to the environment and to the planet that we all live on. So those are the three things that we want to, the three pillars of veganism. So personal health, planetary health, animal health. So now you understand what veganism is. I'm going to show you the diet that I always recommend. So the lifestyle that I recommend is based on the human species specific diet. So did you know that there is a species diet for every species on the planet, including human beings, Homo sapiens? So when you look outside, so when you look out there, past the flowers, everywhere you look, every animal has its own species specific diet. And in this video, you're going to find out what that is for humans. And without further ado, it is starch and fruit. Starch and fruit is what makes up the human species specific diet. These are the foods that you get most of your calories, where you should be getting the energy from to feel good every day. So the reason why it's presented like this is because I'm going to show you the foundation of how you can get healthy. So first of all, I'm going to start off with this food here, and then underneath this tea towel here, with all the cyclists on, I'm going to show you another version of veganism that is another way to eat that I don't recommend, but you can eat like that, but we'll get onto that in a moment. So coming back to why I've presented it like this is because I'm going to show you not just the food you eat, but just quickly to show how you can take the information of, well, you're meant to eat starch and fruit, and then what does that actually mean for you personally in your daily reality, in your day-to-day life. Well, I've got some big bags of rice here. So these are two big 10-kilo bags of rice, and the reason why they're sitting there like this is because, and why I have these big bags is because the largest bags actually work out cheaper than buying small 1 kilo bags. So there's 20 kilos of rice here. So that would be the equivalent of 21 kilo bags. So these work out as at almost £1 a kilo where I live in the UK. So I'm working by pound sterling. So this bag here was a little bit cheaper than £10. It was about £9, and this one was about £10.50. So almost less than £1 a kilo, or about £1 a kilo. And what you want to do is you want to create a routine whereby starch becomes part of your healthy lifestyle on a vegan diet. So what you'll do is, so I recommend white rice as your staple starch, and you can choose maybe potatoes, for example, if you want potatoes, but we'll stick with white rice in this video. And the reason why is because I've already mentioned it's very cheap. So if you're worried about money, no longer need to be worried. It's very easy to prepare, and that's what I'm going to show you now and why it becomes part of your everyday routine. So what you do is, I've just decanted another, so this is another 10 kilo bag essentially in here. So there's basically 3 10 kilo bags. What you want to do is get yourself a rice cooker. So there's a rice cooker here, so that's just a Russell Hobbs. Other rice cookers are available, and it's not sponsored video. So what you want to do is the bowl that you cook the rice in will come with marking on the side that you can see here. Not particularly well, but you fill up, you put the rice in and you count the scoops. So we'll go 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, 4 scoops, 5 scoops, and then we'll finish off with 6, because I found that 6 scoops, so the most you can put in is 7. I found that 6 scoops is the best, so cooks the best. So what you do is you find the marking on the side where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll fill it up to the 6 cup mark with water. So I'll fill it with water, and then I'll just place it in. Once I've filled it with water, I'll place it in the rice cooker. Then I'll put the lid on. So I've got a glass lid here. You put the lid on like so. You press the button down. Comes up with a little light, an orange light. Once it's done cooking, it goes pings up, and it's done. And it might take about 20 minutes or so. Excuse me, about 25 minutes or so. And very, very easy to do. So there you go. Veganism is not expensive. It's not difficult. In fact, it's the easiest, cheapest way to live. So now that we've put the groundwork down for how you eat, it's starch and fruit. The reason for this is because the human species specific diet you can see here. So I've also got some fruit. This is some very ripe fruit, and the reason why it looks that ripe and why it might scare some people is because when it's ripe like that, and it's very sweet, so it's very sweet, you can put it in a smoothie maker like this. You can make a smoothie with it. So a lot of people, the ripest they probably eat a banana is like this, where it's still starchy. Maybe you maybe even eat green bananas, which yeah, I wouldn't recommend eating green bananas. It's not a good idea. Not very sweet, not very nice. So the reason why you eat starch is because historically, when we look at successful populations throughout history, we see that around the world, throughout recorded history, so the last 5,000 years or so, but also looking at the archaeological evidence as well. So starch in the form of the potato has supported the pillars of civilization in South America. The breadbasket of the world, starch was the Middle East and in Europe. And then we look, so that's from South America to the Middle East, and then to look at the Far East or East Asia, Southeast Asia. It's been white rice has supported white rice has supported empires in Asia, and so starch has been at the center of modern human diet. It was only in the last 100 years or so, because of the Industrial Revolution, we switched from eating starch staple foods like white rice to eating more animal foods, which is leading to the chronic. So we have obesity. So we've got an epidemic of growing chronic disease. And the reason for that is for some of the food you see here. So some of these plastic foods. So that's what modern food is, you could say. So you got fatty foods, okay? So so that segues on to the food I'm about to show you. So this food right here that you see, starch and fruit, This is low in fat, it's low in protein, and it's high in carbohydrate. And this has a protective effect to help the body remain disease free as long as you can. So you reduce the risk of cancer. You can stop and reverse heart disease on a plant-based diet, and that's the only diet that's been clinically shown to arrest and reverse heart disease. This also reduces the impact on the environment. So growing trees is good, whereas animal agriculture is cutting down trees. So the main reason why we're losing forest is because it's being cleared around the world to grow not staple crops anymore, commodity crops like soybean that can be grown and then sold for the highest profit that can be found on a market, that then can be given to animals to get big and fat so that you can then eat them. Okay, so these foods here, so got meat there, we've got a burger, have got potatoes here, but they're covered in fat. Okay, so I don't recommend cooking with oils. Okay, so you don't need oil when you're cooking your white rice. So I've literally taken it from the container, put it in the cooker. I'm not even going to wash it out with water. Okay, I'm not even going to wash it out with water. So these foods here, okay, these foods here are leading to switching from these foods to these plastic foods. Meat, donut. Classically, people think that a donut makes you fat because it's sugar. There's more sugar. Okay, in white rice, and quite a lot of. If you get some nice, good, sweet, ripe fruit, there'll be at least as much sugar in fruit as there is in a donut. So obviously this is a relatively small donut. Okay, they come usually larger, it's just a prop. But you'll find that if you were to compare the sugar that's in a donut, there's more sugar in rice, in starch, in fruit. So it's the fat. Okay, the fat you eat, you don't want to eat fat, excess fat. The fat you eat is the fat you wear on your tummy, okay, on your bum. So fat easily moves from your lips to your hips. The fat you eat is the fat you wear from your lips to your hips. So you don't want to be eating plastic food. And there's another thing, we are emptying the oceans so that we can get fat and sick. Eating like, there's some bacon there. Eating like kings and queens. So there's some more meat there. Got some bacon. So there's a brief introduction to get you started on being healthy. So this is healthy. When you eat more and more fat, you get fatter. You eat more and more animal protein, you increase the risk of cancer. And it should be obvious, because the whole reason why you marketed protein is for this idea of growing, getting big and strong and growing big, putting on muscle maybe. Well, that is what cancer is. Cancer is growth, unlimited growth. So what I'm going to show you now is the other option that you can, if you want to, but I do not promote eating like this. But if you do want to still be vegan and want to still eat of all the rubbish that the Western world eats, you can eat like this, okay? So as I say, the three pillars of veganism is animal health, planetary health, and personal health. So if you care about all three, you eat the starch and the fruit. But if you don't really think about your health, and you've seen maybe a video online of someone talking about how terrible animal agriculture is, and you just don't want to take part, but you're being told that sugar's bad, it's making you fat, okay? So if you eat like starch and fruit, so potatoes and rice and melons and bananas and oranges, you'll be nice and lean, you'll lose weight and be healthy. So this is sugar, lots and lots and lots of sugar, starch, white rice. White rice is almost basically the same as white table sugar in terms of how much sugar's in it. And then if you want to still be fat and probably still quite sick like everyone else in the West, then you can eat vegan ice cream. So we've got vegan ice cream here. Again, I don't recommend eating like this, but you can if you want to. Got some cookies. Got a range of cookies, vegan cookies. Got vegan ice cream, cake. You can have some vegan cake. You can have some vegan pizza if you want. And you can have some crisps, popcorn, all vegan. So you can live exactly like everyone else and get fat and unhealthy and sick like everyone else. So you've got options by which to determine your future, your destiny. So the way I like to try and communicate it is, if you eat like this, starch and fruit, you're able to control your destiny, and your destiny is determined by your health. So if you are alive, you are here on this planet and you are still living day after day, and living like this allows you to thrive. Whereas if you're eating like this, so you're swapping out the Western animal products, high fat, high protein animal products, for vegan high fat and high protein products, your health will still do fairly poorly. It probably won't be as bad. Okay, it won't be as bad if you're eating these foods. Okay, if you're eating these foods, then you will do poorly, very poorly. So the leading cause of death in the Western world is heart disease, and has been the leading cause of death since 1950. So the Western culture, the Western diet, is a meat-based diet, an animal product-based diet. It's not a starch and fruit-based diet. So I just want to clarify that. You can't blame, and a lot of people, they blame veganism, or they have this thing about sugar being unhealthy. Animal products like this, this represents fat and protein. There's no carbohydrate or sugar in most animal products. The only sugar that you'll probably find mostly is in dairy products, so lactose sugar. There's no sugar or carbohydrate in meat. It's basically 50% fat, 50% protein. Again, 50% fat, 50% protein. And most people, they'll blame their obesity on the bun. Okay, so you've got the burger, and people, instead of blaming the fat that's in the bun, the fatty meat here covered in oils, they'll blame the bun, which is low in fat, or might have added oils, which will increase the fat. So rather than blaming these high-fat foods, these are high-fat foods, they blame the fact that it's sugar. Even though the Western civilization, which is seeing obesity and heart disease and cancer and diabetes, which is a fat, so the Golden Arches, fast food in the Golden Arches are temples, temples to fat and protein and meat. You don't go to the Golden Arches and fast food places to buy rice The only way that you ever see starch in fast food is if you see these, so these little fries here, and they'll be covered dripping in oil, so vegetable oil. So no, I don't recommend vegetable oils, okay? No vegetable oils either. So no animal oils, no vegetable oils. You don't need oil to cook. And that's great because that also is cheaper. And you don't have to be scrubbing all of this fat off your bowl, off your plate, that takes bleach and all of these horrible chemicals. Whereas starch and fruit is very easy to clean up. And quite often, if you're going to have, a melon, when you cut it open, the outside of the melon is the bowl itself. So you can just put the bowl, once you've eaten the flesh inside, you can just put the shell of the fruit, the outer skin of the fruit in your compost. And it's not going to create plastic waste. So there you go. So there's the basic intro for becoming vegan. You need to focus on starch and fruit. So for example, if you have a bowl, so most of your bowl should be starch, and then you can add some other things in, like corn, maybe some beans if you want, and you can add some sauces. You can add some sauces. So generally, I look for the low salt sauces. Okay, so you don't want lots of salt. You don't want lots and lots and lots of salt. Okay, and then you could have fruit. You can have as much fruit to feel satiated. And the great thing about this is because the human body runs on sugar, carbohydrate, the reason why people think that they're overeating is because if you're not eating to satiate for sugar, then you're creating basically a bottomless pit of eating by trying to satiate yourself on fat, when the body is looking to eat for this. So with this, starch is incredibly satiating. Okay, rice, starches, incredibly satiating. So you drink to satiate for water, you breathe to satiate for oxygen, and you eat to satiate for glucose. So glucose derived ATP. Whereas when you eat lots of fat, you get sick. When you eat lots of sugary foods, so starch and fruit, you lose weight, you regain your health, and you get as healthy as your body can on a starch and fruit based diet. Low fat, low protein, high carbohydrate. So this is how people don't eat. So people don't eat like this in the Western world, but everyone is suffering from ill health. But lots of people eat like this. Okay, most people eat like that. Okay, most people eat like that, or the meat-based version. Okay, so you've got two choices there if you want to make. You can be vegan for the animals and still be fat and sick, and you can be vegan for all three reasons: animals, the planet, your own health, and that's through starch and fruit. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Have you got any comments or criticisms? Okay, you'll be able to see in other videos that I'm always lean and healthy. Okay, I'm always lean because I'm eating the species specific diet. Okay, and when you eat like this high fat, high protein, you get food poisoning. And the way that presents itself is obesity. So the symptoms are food poisoning, just like any food poisoning. So if you get food poisoning, for example, from seafood, okay, Salmonella listeria, from seafood, and you're unwell, the way to stop being unwell is to remove it. Okay, you remove it, the cause. Okay, so we remove the seafood, and then you don't suffer from, and you can get, if you undercook you undercook your meat, you don't cook your meat right, you can get very unwell. Whereas you just pick a banana up and you're gonna be fine. Okay, it's ridiculous. Okay, come on, it's so obvious. It's calling out to you when you look at that. You're like, look at that, want that, and then a bit of fatty, greasy, horrible flesh. You don't know where it comes from. Mystery meat. Okay, there's always this joke. Maybe at school, Western culture about mystery meat. This horrible plasticky, rubbery thing that just sits on your plate, that you served, and you have no idea where it came from or what it is, what animal it was. It could have even been human, for who knows. But yeah, human species specific diet. Fat and protein is good for the health, for the modern health industry, because this is creating lots of unhealthy people. Whereas this is, well, this is the 1%. This is the choice that 1% of people make, and this is the choice that 99% of people make. And yeah, it maybe in evolution you could say that being part of the group was good for your health. So being part of the group, it protected you from being predated. But now what's happening is people are they're following what everyone is doing, eating these foods that are unhealthy, and then that is then causing predation. So the food industries are predating on people by telling everyone the same message that this is good, even though for some reason people have been fooled into believing it is in their best interest to die from heart disease and cancer from these foods. And they can't see that everyone is so unhealthy, but it's not because everyone is a low fat, low protein, high carbohydrate, starch, and fruit based vegan. About statistics would say about 1 to 3% of people are vegan usually, most of the time. And there's some people on the fence, like in the 99% of people, some of them are vegetarian. Okay, they're on the fence, but veganism is the total package. Vegetarianism is just, it's not got nothing to do with vegan in the modern world. Okay, so you're either vegan, eating like this, or you're everything else. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for your time. If I missed anything out, I was on a train of thought and I maybe didn't finish it. Put a comment in the comment section. But I'm gonna do another video every day, probably for a week. So this will be the intro, and then I'll do another 6 days showing foods that you can eat, and you don't need to worry about getting all your nutrients. So I think I'll cover other topics in other videos. Otherwise, I could start going on about everything in one video, and it would last hours. So anyway, thank you for your time. Like and subscribe, and share the video to people who are thinking, well, I can't do Veganuary. It's too difficult and expensive and takes too much time. Well, it's actually opposite. Going vegan is cheaper, it's easier, healthier. It takes less time to prepare, takes less time to clear up, and you don't need to spend hours or days of your life going to the pharmacy to get your pharmaceutical drugs to treat the symptoms of your disease, like type 2 diabetes, or getting your obesity weight loss drugs, when you can just have what nature intended. Okay, so yes, you can eat like this, high fat, high protein. No one's currently going to stop you. There's no law that will stop you from destroying the planet. But you can also eat high fat and high protein like this. So you can still eat unhealthy as a vegan. Okay, you can still eat terribly as a vegan, but you can do it by not causing harm to animals. So if you don't care about your health, a lot of people say that, well, that's fine then. You shouldn't then care if you don't care about your health, okay, if you don't care about your health, then therefore you shouldn't care about not eating animal products, okay? So if you don't care about your health, then go for it. Go high fat, high protein vegan, okay, and leave the animals alone. Okay, stop paying for people to kill animals, starve animals all day. There you go. Easy, easy. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I'll see you for part 2. Ciao.